Hello and welcome back to Biblical Insights. If you're new, Biblical Insights is a platform where we interview and discuss different biblical stories. Today we have a special guest. Please welcome Joe.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here.
You're so very welcome. Today I'm going to be asking you some questions about your past and how your faith grew stronger.
Okay, great. Let's get started.
Great. Let's start with what your life was like before everything went downhill.
Yeah, so I had a great life. I had 7 sons, 3 daughters, 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a large number of servants. I was the greatest in all the East.
What happened after that might have tested you and your beliefs?
Well, it was so unexpected. One of my messengers came to tell me that my 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and my large number of servants had all died. And then, while the messenger was still speaking, I found out all my children had died too.
Sounds really awful. How is your support system handling this tragedy that you faced?
The very people that I thought I could rely on all turned their backs on me. They blamed me for what had happened. This made me realize the people I surrounded myself with did not understand how God works. My wife was upset and told me to curse God and just die. My friends tried to rationalize what God had done by trying to find some fault of mine, without realizing that God was not that simple. They assumed that either I or my children had sinned and constantly accused me of many things.
I'm so sorry about all of that. It seems like a rough time. I heard that wasn't the end. What happened to you after that?
I was struck with terrible boils from head to toe. This made everything even worse.
Yeah, I'm sure it would. Now I have to ask, how did this affect your faith throughout this time?
At first, I was trying not to blame God because I thought he would never do something as awful as this. Then I started holding it against God. I was upset he let awful things happen to me. Then I started to realize that God was a loving God and must have a plan for me.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. And I'm sure your friends and wife were not helping you process all that. I would have changed my mind a lot too.
Yeah, it was a really rough and tough time.
Yeah, I'm sure. What happened after that and how did this impact your faith?
God finally responded to all of my prayers. He told me that he's looking at the big picture and that he knows so much more than I do. I learned that God is fair and just and powerful. He humbled me and helped me recognize who God is. Now my faith is so much stronger.
That's great. And how did this impact your life after that?
Well, my friends repented and made sacrifices. I prayed for them and forgave them. God then restored everything, and I got everything that I lost back, doubled.
What do you think that this experience was able to teach you?
Though this experience was rough, it taught me that believing in and trusting God doesn't guarantee that your life will be without any suffering. Even if it seems like a mistake, I now know that God doesn't make any mistakes and that he always has his reasons, but he doesn't have to give you his reason for doing so. I just have to trust God and all of his plans that he is in.
I'm so glad you learned from this experience and that your faith was able to grow during your experience. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You seem to have gained many insights, and I hope you never have to go through something like that.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And for everyone who watched this episode of Biblical Insights, thanks for watching. In our next episode, we will be interviewing Isaiah and talking about his journey through faith.